I'm about to head outside to give Delilah her birthday gift. It's her 4th birthday, so this squeaks. I'm not going to do it so I don't trigger the dogs watching. And then this you can pull, so it's a rope and a squeaky toy. It is really cold. I'm like reading beside us. Happy birthday, little girl! Happy birthday! Hi, people. And welcome to a new vlog. The theme this week is we are going to be reading the shortest science fiction book on my TBR according to Goodreads. Let's look at the weekly TBR. These are all the books that we're going to be focusing on. The first is Out There by Kate Folk. I haven't started this one yet and I'm not going to be able to start it today, but this is a short story collection. I'm not even sure what it's about. A thoroughly new voice in fiction injects the absurd into the everyday in a style so sharp and ingenious you may cut yourself while reading. So it doesn't really tell me anything, but I don't know why. This gives me Substance vibes. The cover, a bit of speculative fiction short story collection, so I will be trying to start this tomorrow. I just did not have time today because Monday is my busiest work day. But what is the shortest science fiction book on my TBR according to Goodreads? It is Jawbone by Megan Greeley. I gave y'all a bit of a sneak peek of what this is about in the last video, but we are going to get the full synopsis here today. Also, I wanted to read this on Kindle, but there is no Kindle edition of this book. There's no ebook edition. I'm having to read the physical paperback copy, but this writing style, I don't think it should be difficult to get through. But let's see, what is this book about? A young woman has 1 minute to speak on a submission video to win a one-way trip to Mars, a location she views as the ultimate escape. As she barricades herself in a cottage by the sea and prepares to record, she examines her fixation on the color red, shame, guilt, a dramatic breakup with her boyfriend, the breakdown of her relationship with her best friend. There's another problem, however. Her jaw has been wired shut for a long time and she's having trouble speaking. A passionate story about queer love and loneliness and a dazzling debut from author Megan Greeley. That sounds very intriguing of what could be going on here, and being in that situation and wanting to go to Mars, knowing you're in that situation. We will be starting this one today and y'all will be getting daily updates on my reading experience reading that. Then for my mood reads I only do as an audiobook because I want to really equal out reading physical and audio, and I have subscriptions for audiobooks and ebooks and I don't want to let that go to waste. With that, I am reading The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan. This is a historical fiction taking place in Maine in the 1700s. We have our main character of Martha, who is based on a real historical person. This is based on a real historical event that happened. So she is the town's midwife, and one day she's coming back from a patient's house and finds out that a body has been pulled out from the frozen river. And this body is very interesting because some people are saying it was murder, some people are saying it was an accident. But a few months ago, there had been a rape reported in the town, and Martha, being a medical professional, was the one to, as a witness, she was the one that rode up and saw all the bruises on the young woman. And now we're coming around to that trial, and it really is dividing this community. Also, we have like modern medicine coming in because we have a doctor who is Harvard educated. People are kind of like, ooh, we want to go to him and not to their traditional midwife. So there's kind of just a lot of division happening in their community. Next is my ebook. This one, with my ebooks, I have really been focusing on continuing reading series. Sorry if you heard that noise. That didn't sound like my dog, but it sounded like a dog. But okay, I think it might be the dog who lives across the street. But okay, so we have A God in Ruins. This is the sequel to Life After Life. And this series, or the first book really, because I am literally only like 4% into this. This one is, or the series, is showing how important the choices we make in life are, and just the smallest choice can have a huge impact. Now that is my dog, but how the smallest choice can have the big impact on your life, and the butterfly effect. So this is an ingenious and moving exploration of one ordinary man's path through extraordinary times. Isn't that like what historical fiction does? And we live in extraordinary times. Crazy stuff is happening every day, and we're just ordinary people, and it's happening out there. Yeah. Crazy. So that's my intro for the vlog. It is probably around, yeah, it's like 2:26 right now. So we are going to begin into reading at 3. I am sadly gonna have to read inside today because it is very cold outside. It's 40 something degrees. It might be in the 50s now, but I was just out there on a walk, walking the dogs, and yeah, I don't want to read out in that. Frozen River, fitting. That's why I picked it for January, because I mean, look at that. Does that cover not scream January? But I'll see y'all later. I got to, I think it was like 59% on Jawbone. The Fable app's not working, so that's frustrating, because with Fable, I can put the exact page number that the book has, or that I count, because I don't always, sometimes they count where it'll be like a blurb or a little snippet of another book and all that, and I don't count that. No, I don't know if that's in here or not, because I don't really look at the back. Yeah, I don't count acknowledgements. This is 98 pages. I got to page 61. So yeah, we are definitely on track to finish this book tomorrow, finishing it way earlier than expected, but that's fun. That's a good thing. We are going to go through my tabs right now. I'm going to say like 3-star vibes. It's good, but I don't really see this being a memorable reading experience. I like what I'm reading, but as I said, I don't think it's going to be very memorable. Let's go to our first tab. Right off the bat, okay, where I don't want to get vulgar, there's just a lot of like private parts mentioned, and to me that's always a sign that this is probably going to be a weird girl book. Yeah, this is a weird girl book. If you like the weird girl books, I don't know if our character is mentally ill, at least not yet anyway, because we are building towards something in this. But very comedic writing style. Vulgar. Yeah, I'm going to say it's vulgar. So if you like Otesha Moshfegh, I didn't make a note of that, but with the writing, I do think Otesha Moshfegh's better, but this is a debut. There's potential. There is potential here. About on the description that the character's jaw has been wired shut, so she cannot physically speak. The words cannot come out of her mouth. And with this tape to go to Mars, she has to say a minute's worth of words. So she just has, you know, she's going to this cottage, constantly recording. I don't know how the technology works, because my camera is like, no, you're not doing that. But that's what she's doing. She is recording hours, tens of hours of herself. She can't speak, so she's just going to record it till she has 1 minute of speaking. And that's clever. I think that's a clever thing to do here for a book. I think that's just very clever. I've never thought of before, but I said I didn't want to live in a perfect climate, because then what would I yearn for? And that's so true, because as y'all know, we've got through Christmas. I'm like, I just want warm weather. I don't want to be in this cold weather. I don't want it to be 30 something degrees outside. I want it to be 80 degrees. I want to be in shorts. I want to be frolicking. I don't want to be in the cold. I've never thought about this, but I'm like, that is so true. And I love when a book can put these thoughts and feelings and emotions that you've had, but put words to them. Oh, love that about reading. The author that I would compare this to the most is Allegra Hyde. Her main novel is Eleutheria, and then I've read some short stories by her as well. But especially Eleutheria, if you like that book, I think you might like this book. We have the LGBT relationship, like we have a relationship going on and kind of analyzing a relationship. It seems like climate change is happening, that we're starting to see major impacts of it. So we're in this world that is kind of a near future kind of cli-fi. I'm not, this is not a cli-fi so far, but there's elements that we're building, getting to maybe a climate catastrophe, and maybe that's why humans are going to Mars. I think that's been brought up several times. So somebody mentions who the character has a crush on, mentions, because I don't think we've known her name, because yeah, it's in second person when it says you when talking about that person. There was an instance where they said something about the war, so our main character is like, which war? Why do we only say the war when war's never gonna stop? And then we see again her boyfriend kind of guy. Yeah, her boyfriend. I was like, what are they referring to him as? We get letters from him, emails maybe, I'm not exactly sure, but we get communication from him, and he says, but then I found out that ever since the war, maraschino cherries have been preserved in sugar syrup and the oil of bitter almonds. I'm like, what? Like, when is this taking place? Because I'm like, is this like the 1950s? And we are, because, you know, it's space age, when NASA became a thing and we went to the moon for the first time and going to space for the first time. But then I'm like, YouTube was mentioned, and then the camera, well, I mean, I guess they could have filmed something for like 72 hours back in the day. But I'm like, yeah, YouTube and phones and all that has been mentioned. So, and then this guy D, who is the love interest, is from a post-Soviet country, and he says he was born 2 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but the Iron Curtain still had such a big presence in his life, like the aftershocks of it. Okay, he was probably born in 93, so this is probably in the 2020s. But so I don't know what war. I don't know if this is something that is, again, this is sci-fi, and this could be something that happened in this universe of the book. But I think it's interesting that the war has been brought up several times. This is one that I thought was kind of relatable, and like, oh, other people do this? You don't have to explain, I said, and closed the cutlery drawer very, very quietly so that it didn't make a sound that sounded on purpose. And yes, I'm like, when I don't want somebody to know I'm mad, I'm like, we have to be very gentle, we have to be very slow, we have to be very quiet about things, because it's kind of like giving the silent treatment in a way, now that I think about it, but not vocally, but doing it in other ways. And I was like, yeah, that's relatable. Let me read it. The hot winds of the Santa Anas licked brush fires. They began to ration the water. No washing cars, no watering lawns. A beige film settled on everything, dueling the shine of cars on the turnpikes, even the expensive models. Dust was the great equalizer. Now you couldn't tell a Porsche from a Hyundai, the poverty and the opulence blending together, all beige and dual and dirty. And that's the thing. When the world is ending, I know you hear about like Elon Musk coming like a bunker, millionaires of the world being prepared. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think any amount of preparing can prepare for the end of the world. When it's something natural like that, it's coming for all of us. I know a year ago we were having the fires in California. Yeah, extremely famous A-list people had their houses destroyed. Mother Nature doesn't care about if you have a check mark beside your name on social media. It doesn't care about how much money you have in your bank account. It doesn't care if you drive a Porsche or if you drive a Hyundai. It doesn't care. It comes for all of us. Nature is brutal, and it's an equalizer, which is ironic for filming this video. I said, I don't comment on a book until I finished it. It's important to know the end before I judge the beginning. And that's true. That is definitely true. And sometimes when people ask me how I'm feeling about a book, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to like jinx anything. So I can kind of relate to that. But doing a book review, doing a reading update, I just thought it was kind of ironic, and I wanted to share with y'all. So that is Jawbone by Megan Greeley, the first update. Happy Tuesday. I hope it's been happy for you. I've been very productive today, and we love that. I love being productive. I feel so good. I worked out for the first time really all year. Like, I have been the bicycle some days, and I've walked, but I haven't lifted weights and just done like strength workouts and arm workouts and all that kind of stuff. Got back into the grind today, so I feel really good. Like, my legs do kind of feel like jelly, but I feel good that I've worked out, that I've cleaned and just been productive. That just really makes me happy. It's very cold, and tomorrow it's going to be raining, and I have to wait outside for my food tomorrow for like the restaurant I'm going to, so that's going to be fun. But I know they only said, they're like, you can come in, you don't have to sit out here, but I don't want to get in people's way. But I am here to do my review of Jawbone by Megan Greeley. The character, I did really enjoy the character in this book. As I said, I don't think she's necessarily going to be memorable. That's the thing with this book. I don't think this is going to be that memorable of a story, but she is very relatable, kind of quirky, but not over the top. And I just think a lot of young people will be able to relate to this character, who is ultimately trying to find herself at the end of the day and is very confused going on this adulting journey of trying to find herself. So I am going to give the character work a 4-star. Atmosphere didn't play a huge part in this. Like, I actually have no idea where this takes place. I'm picturing Toronto because I know this book is Canadian, but I actually don't know if it's in Toronto or not. I would have liked that little cottage to be a little more atmospheric. I think that could have been good. I think there was potential with the atmosphere, but it just wasn't quite hit upon. So we are going to do a 3. It was average. The writing, I'm going to do a 3-star as well because it's comedic, kind of vulgar, but I do think a lot of people are going to like this writing style because of those things. That is just what is popular at the moment, of having that tone, having that comedic, dark sense of humor tone, vulgar with like sexual things, talking about like people's private parts. I'm nice on here and I don't say those words, just I'm fine hearing those words, but I just know some of my audience doesn't want to hear that. Being courteous. Other people might not really like this tone because it is just so what we're seeing now in literature with these new adult, I think is what people are calling it, vulgarity. I think it might be a bit much for people, but for me, I had a really hard time finding out like what was going on here. We were, again, it was like a pinball machine. I was all over the place. I was just like, okay, 1 minute we're here, 1 minute we're here. And I just felt like I was being thrown around. It was very fast paced. And what did I say yesterday? That it was, yeah, it was hard to follow. So that was my issue with it, was just that it was really bouncing around a lot and I was having a hard time following. With the plot, this, again, had potential. I thought it was going to be about this, like, all of this has so much potential, but when we get into the story, it is just another story of a young woman trying to find herself. This starts out seeming like it's going to be this sci-fi speculative fiction story, but it's ultimately just a contemporary literary fiction story at the end of the day of adulting, dealing with your relationships, with your friendships, romantic relationships, trying to come to terms with what you want in your relationships. So it wasn't really, even with the jaw part, I'm still kind of confused on what was going on there. We'll do a 3. We'll do a 3. And I'm still, that was supposed to be the purple color. Okay, intrigue. Yeah, I kept waiting. I'm like, okay, when are we going to get to all this stuff about Mars? When are we going to get to finding out things? It didn't really, so I was intrigued. So again, I think that just falls on the 3 because it never got the payoff. I wanted to know what would happen, but I never got the payoff for it. So therefore logic is going to be a 2 because so much of how this book is described isn't actually what it was. So I'm like, what was the point of this? And overall reading this, it gave me 3-star vibes. So I'm like, this is good, but I don't think this is going to be something that sticks with me over time. I have the phone here so we can do the math to see what we're going to rate this. Yes, this is going to be a straight up 3 out of 5 stars. So this is a good book, recommending with a maybe. If any of this sounds intriguing to you, but I don't think this ultimately brings a whole lot of newness to the table, that I don't think this is going to stick with me. So I'm going to do write my review, put all this stuff in my reading journal, mark how many pages I read today, find out, I know which book I'm going to be reading next, and we will talk about that tomorrow, but I also have to see who I'm adding to my TBR, because we are working on the April TBR now, seeing what books I'm going to be reading in April. That's going to be classics. But that is all for now. It is time to do my update on The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon, because I have got to over the halfway point. I am at somewhere in the 50% range, 51 to like 54, because different apps will tell you different things. How does that work? I really do not know, because I do the same edition of all of them and my notes are going everywhere. So the first note for this 50% quarter, for between 25% and 50%, is the character of North, who is like our villain in this book. I wish there was more building to him on how he became the man that he became, because I hate when books have a villain for the sake of having a villain. And I'm assuming all of this is based on historical event, because I do know that it is based on these diary entries by this woman. So I'm assuming everything, like all the big plot points, are based on real events. So I do wish there was just a little more building on that character of North, because as I was just saying, I hate to have a villain for the sake of having a villain. People aren't born evil, they develop into that, and I wish we would just have a little bit more building on that character. See, I know she might have read this book, I don't know, but our character has read a book and it's just so on the nose, where I'm like, it's literally just like her. The book was called Emmeline. I'm like, it's so obvious, like just trying so hard. And I'm like, why do we have to be on the nose with things? And then one was this theory of this couple who I think are going to get together. Two is who I think the killer is in our situation. And something that I only think there's meaning when something keeps popping up. Now, this is a really strange thing that has popped up in my reading this week. So with Jawbone, there's a scene where we have the characters, they're at a party, maybe a little drunk, maybe a little high, they're not sober, and they're talking about, when does an apple die? Is it when you take it from the tree, eventually it starts to bruise? And one of the characters was like, well, a dead body can't bruise, so it isn't dead when you take it from the tree. And in here they talk about how a dead body can't bruise, that you get bruises before you die. So I never knew about this. Why has it come up twice this week and it's only Tuesday? I don't know. With the character of Martha, I am really disliking her. She was really reminding me of Claire from Outlander first, and then my friend that I'm doing the buddy read with, he was like, so he wanted to know why she reminded me of Claire, why this is kind of reminding me of Outlander. Like, I think this is kind of a wannabe Outlander, if I'm being honest with y'all, and I'm gonna get more into that, but hold our horses. But with Claire, so he made the point of Claire as somebody who came from a time where women had more rights. Like, Claire has a college education and all the rights that a woman of her time could have. She is just more knowledgeable because of that. But we have Martha, who's very much like strong, independent woman, girl boss. And it's just where somebody's so hard-headed, where I made a note earlier that Martha is too independent and that's going to be getting her into trouble, which, I mean, obviously there is nothing wrong with her being independent, but at this time period, things usually don't go well for a strong, independent woman, but she does, and it's just like that. She's very hard-headed, thinks that she's better than everybody, that she knows better than everybody. And there was one scene today where we're having them in the courtroom. She has that rival doctor. His wife is in the courtroom, you know, to support him, like Martha's husband is there to support her. Martha is just looking down at this man's wife. She's like, so-and-so, I don't remember her name, was holding on to Dr. Page's arm and all of this. I'm like, why are you looking down at her? You've literally never interacted with this woman. And you think this woman knows any different, because again, at this time period where women don't have as many rights, and her job as a woman, as she sees it, is to be a supportive wife to her husband, and you're looking down at her for that. And I'm like, you've just never had interaction with her and you're being so judgmental towards her. And I've realized that she has been very judgmental towards other women in this book. And this character is so filled with anger, which, I mean, with the situations that she's dealing with, it does make sense, but it's not enjoyable to read from somebody who is full with anger and hatred almost. Like, that's loosely saying hatred. I'm just not liking to read that. I am not liking the character in this book. And yes, she is based on a real historical woman, and I mean, I don't know what that real historical woman is like, but I think this is making her a bit too, I do think, too perfect. The writer hasn't really given her flaws, but there is of her just thinking she's better than everybody. The writer thinking this character is better than everybody as well. So that's my update on the Frozen River. It's not living up to the hype for me. It's giving 3-star vibes, because I don't think objectively this is a bad book, but we'll have to see where it goes. Guys, I am totally slacking. I was supposed to tell y'all what the book I'm starting today is about, but it is Wednesday. It's very, very cold. Apparently it was supposed to snow tomorrow, but now they're saying no, and it's gonna snow on Sunday, Monday. But yeah, I don't want that. But it's Delilah's birthday. It's her 4th birthday today, and I feel so bad. So when she was outside, it started pouring down rain on her, and rain is like her most hated thing in this world. And on her birthday, so she has to be inside. I feel bad for her. Is The Saga of the Mitford Family by Mary S. Lovell. I heard about this book on the channel Hardcover Hearts. I haven't seen one of her videos in a while, but I do follow her on Instagram. Love her recommendations, so this is the one that I'm going to try. This is my nonfiction pick for the month. Let's read the description together. This is the story of a close, loving family splintered by the violent ideologies, that's not right, of Europe between the world wars. Jessica was a communist, Debo became the Duchess of Devonshire, Nancy was one of the best-selling novelists of her day. I have read one of her books. Beautiful Diana married the fascist leader Sir Oswald Mosley, and Unity, a close friend of Hitler, shot herself in the head when England and Germany declared war. The Mitfords had style and presence and were extremely gifted. Above all, they were funny, hilariously and mercilessly so. In this wise, even-handed, and generous book, Mary Lovell captures the vitality and drama of a family that took the 20th century by storm and became in some respects its victims. And just reading that reminds me so much of the world today, of people having different beliefs. The one that I only see, it will be like when somebody finds out that somebody they know is a Democrat, they'll comment being like, you're better than this, you should know better. But I never see Democrats telling Republicans that. And I will admit, I have thought that, but I never go out of my way to comment it, because people are permitted to have different beliefs, even if I don't agree with somebody else's beliefs. It is really hard to see people for people and not for their political beliefs. Especially when it's just so the complete total opposite of what you believe. It is something that is really difficult, but just be nice to each other. And if you see somebody who doesn't agree with you, like one of their posts, for me, I just keep on scrolling. It's not worth getting in the fight over, and the world would be boring if honestly if we all liked the same thing. So that can go into anything. That's not, I'm not saying even politics. Don't belittle somebody. And every time when I see people say like, oh, you're better than that. Okay, so you think your beliefs are better than mine, or like vice versa, you know? So I just don't think, I don't understand. You're kind of giving yourself a superiority complex, which, as I said, I have done. I've thought it, I've never actually physically verbalized it to somebody before. So it's interesting to see how families, friendships, relationships can all be splintered by beliefs, and that it's not a new concept, that it has been happening. This showing us in the 20th century, the early 20th century, that as y'all saw what it was talking about. So I'm going to be starting this now. I already had all those thoughts just on the 2-paragraph description on the back of the book. I'm gonna go read. I got to 11% in the Sisters, so this will take me about 10 days to read. Y'all know the chair I'm sitting on is wobbly. But it should take me about 10 days to read, which this is really, I could have till the end of the month to read this, because this is the last book on my TBR this month. This is the last one. The big chunky one. We are going to go through my notes. I am stopping in the middle of a chapter. I am pretty sleepy. Go on. So I did dog ear The Family Tree, because I know a lot of times I have to go back to these and see them. Yeah, Winston Churchill is in the family tree. Our introduction and how we were talking about earlier of people being divided and how that's always been a thing. It's nothing new to the table. It said the reader is capable as I am of forming his or her own opinion based on the evidence and an individual's social that word. Rather, I hope to illustrate the complex loyalties and love, disloyalties, and even hate, and above all, the laughter that ran through this family's relationships. They could always find humor even in their own misfortunes. So that was her saying that she's not going... let me go back a little bit. Although politics play a major part in this story of the sisters, this is not a political book, so it's not going to be like Unity and Diana were wrong for being far right, Decca was wrong for being far left. And then it goes into that little bit that I told you that you and we are capable of forming our own opinions. So this is just saying, these are the facts, which is nice to read that every once in a while, because like with, not Cleopatra, with the Egyptian book that did go back to modern politics, comparing history and modern politics. So I think it's good to have variety with the nonfiction, historical nonfiction, into the book itself, the outside of the introduction into the chapters. Right off the bat, this is very descriptive writing, which I'm not a huge fan of. I just want y'all to see the amount of like adverbs and adjectives that are used in this paragraph, because that's how I know something's going to be descriptive, like the amount of adjectives in a paragraph. Sydney Bowles was 14 years old when she first set eyes on David Freeman Mitford. He was 17, classically handsome, as well as were all members of his family, with luminous blue eyes, dressed comfortably in an old brown velveteen keeper's jacket. He stood with his back to the fire, one foot casually resting on the fender. As Sydney entered the brightly lit library of his father's country house at Batsford in Gloucestershire, she was dazzled by light and warmth, after a drive through dark winter lanes and the wagonette from the station. Her first impression as she walked through the hall had been of the sweet smell of beeswax wood smoke and oriental spices, but as soon as she saw David, all this was forgotten. At that moment, Sydney wrote in an unpublished memoir, she lost her heart. So lots of description there. So that first chapter is really just showing how the parents met, what their childhoods were like, and they really did love each other. Of just seeing all the other partners they had to go through and the experiences they had to go through to find each other. And like, he was in the birthing room with her, which was very like frowned upon in Victorian times, is when this is. Yeah, they really loved each other. So it says, it seems such an ordinary story, this handsome but otherwise unremarkable young couple settling down to a quietly happy marriage, looking forward to further children. Though they had no great prospects, they were content with their lot in life. There is absolutely no indication that their children, there would be 7 in all, would be extraordinary, that they would make the family a household name. And I was thinking that too earlier in that. So also, like, I don't know, when I read these big tomes, usually like fantasy and nonfiction, I will just do a note at the end of that chapter saying, okay, this is what this chapter was about. So you are going to see that as I go through my reading experience with this book. And then this was the connection to Churchill. We're going through, so Churchill's wife, Clementine, was the first cousin of David, but some people think that they might have even been half siblings, because apparently her mother had an affair with David's father. Obviously, we can't really, I mean, we might be able to confirm it. I don't know how DNA works, but nobody knows for sure. There's a lot of rumor and hearsay around that. So they are connected to the Churchill family and did grow up with Winston Churchill. Family is so eccentric, and I am really liking that, because I think a lot of people don't think about that for this time period, and especially this being a noble family. Now they technically are, at least David's family, which is where the Mitford name comes from, are lords, like first generation, but they are very much at the bottom of that ranking, the bottom of the bottom of the top, I guess you can say, even though I guess the royal family would be the ones at the top. But, you know, they're at the bottom. They're struggling with debt and all this stuff, but they're so eccentric. So they get to go to the pet shop at Harrods, and the parents always let them get stuff. But one day, when the dad is coming home from work, which is Lady, which is a magazine company, Vanity Fair came from there, but he's coming home from work one day, and he bought it on a whim. He saw a brownie, a miniature pony, and he was like, it's gonna sleep inside the house in a room we don't use for the night, and we'll take it up to out to the country where they would vacation. And the people on the train, they were like, the train people, they were like, we can't let you have this in the normal, you can't have this in first class. So they all rented the third class where the third class would go. That's where they got tickets, which very unusual for a noble family to do such a thing, but they wanted to ride with the pony and for the pony to be able to go. Cute. And this is very much, you can see, there was never any pressure to conform, and the children grew as they wanted, which I really think like that's how my parents were with me, that I could just do whatever and they would support me through anything. Yeah, that's really how these parents are parenting. And I just think a lot of times when people think of the Edwardian time period, and especially of nobility, they think they're just very rigid, cold, tough. They don't see them as people. So I do think it is humanizing, which again, I think is a great thing that nonfiction can do. The dad has been my favorite. Everybody says how funny he is and how warm he is. And this was during when he was at war in World War I. And Nancy sends him a letter because she's starting to learn French. And it's just like nursery rhymes talking about goats and all that kind of stuff. So then he sends her one, like just a cute little poem back, like about, it says, who pays the bills for Bon Chevert's food? Are cabbages for goats' war diet? Or are they given to keep her quiet? And I was just like, so cute. Like, I'm like, this man's in the trenches and he's out here writing to his daughter, like, yeah. So chapter 2 was like how the parents parent. Now we are in chapter 3, which is the one I'm currently in. But yeah, all the Clements and Clementines, they love that name in this family. Now, that's my last tab. So, and this chapter is really going into their life into the country, because David wasn't supposed to he wasn't his father's heir. His brother dies in the war, so he becomes heir. And because of the war, there's rationing and all of that kind of stuff. So Sydney gets cut off from her allowance. So she's like, we have to leave London. But the kids are all very excited because they're getting to move to the country, like to what they say is really the country. They're moving out to the sticks in Gloucestershire, and we're seeing their childhood out there and also their schooling, because the son has gone to boarding school, because that is what they all do, even in our ebook that's happening. And then Nancy has gone away to school as well. So that is all for the Thursday. Oh, this chair's so wobbly, and I can't order one online because I have nobody to build it. And then I just haven't been able to go to a store to like find an already built stool. Goodwill didn't have any, so I think I'm gonna have to go to an antique mart. Can't talk. So we are going to go through what we do on the last day of the vlog. In the sisters, I have got to 21%. I read 54 pages, summary, and somewhere between 50 to 60 pages a day in this book. It should take me about 10 days to read this book. Sorry, I haven't seen the pictures on the side. I've only seen the front pictures, so that is interesting. They are beautiful. Or were, because I'm assuming they're all dead now. Go through the notes. There's not that many notes for day 2 of reading, to be honest with y'all. So the chapter 3, we were just seeing how the girls were raised, what like their parents, kind of what we talked about yesterday, just how they were parented. And then we go to chapter 4, which is the Roaring 20s. And this chapter was so long, like almost 40 pages. And this is when we're really seeing the girls become young adults and getting to leave home for the first time, whether that be for school or a group of other young people, but like in a educational way. So this little thing. Okay, when Nancy returned from the trip, she went to like Italy and all over there. her head filled with images of terracotta roof towns baking in hot sunshine, of flowers and color and blue waters. Life for her would never be the same again. That's all we want. That's all we want. When I went to Italy, I was in the north. It was cold, but I was like, culture. This is it. Chef kiss. Another Nancy quote, because Nancy's the oldest, so that's why we're seeing her first. Nancy was attractive, and her sharp wit was a great asset for those intelligent enough to appreciate it. And I mean, I'm not going to say I'm attractive. I think I'm semi-good looking, but I think I have a sharp wit. And people always like just, okay, I can always make people laugh when I'm trying not to. Like, that's something I've noticed lately, where people will think something I say is so funny and I'm like, oh, I didn't intend for that, but I'm glad to put a smile on somebody's face. And then in high school, when I'd be like, oh, I found somebody attractive, people were like, oh, you're saying attractive. I wasn't being like, oh, that guy's hot or he's cute, whatever. I would say somebody's attractive. And that's just how I talk. I don't use a lot of like slang. I mean, I do occasionally use slang, but it's not, I talk how I talk. Y'all just watched probably like a 50-some minute long vlog. So y'all are aware. But Nancy started out as my favorite. She can be a little mean to her younger sisters, but now like Diana is one of my favorites, and then we will talk about Decca in a little bit. But now we have Tom, who is the brother. Very interesting character there as well. I would like to know more about him, but this book is on the girls of the family, the sisters. So he goes to Vienna to learn German. He stays with the family of Janos von Almassy, a Hungarian count. He goes to stay at their castle. The family was almost as eccentric as Tom's own. So Janos was a highly intelligent man, was interested in the supernatural and horoscope. Many evenings were spent in holding seances and casting horoscopes. We need a book on this family. I'm intrigued. I'm very interested in that. And also, we need a TV show on the Mitfords. I'm sure they might appear as like side characters and things, because we do see Diana marries the, I don't know if he's the heir of the Guinness family, but marries a Guinness. And I do know there's a show on that. My dad watched that or is watching that. I don't know, but she might appear there. But so that chapter, the chapter 4, that was seeing again their upbringing, their schooling, their education. Then we go into chapter 5, which is a fairly short chapter. I think it was 12 pages. And this one, so as I said, Diana marries Brian, who is the heir. I'm pretty sure he's the heir, but he might just be one of the sons of the Guinness family. And again, this is so relatable. There was no sense of anticlimax for Diana, because marriage meant freedom to pursue the things that mattered to her. Chief among them was meeting interesting new people without having to face the disapproval of her parents. Good conversation, books, music, and travel. Oh, yes, that's all I want. So then what is my last tab of the day? I definitely skipped the one about Decca. I need to go back and find that. But yes, so the chapter 5 was about leaving the nest. We're seeing some of the girls leave the nest for the first time, and like we see Diana get married. Okay, here's the part about Decca. I'm sorry that I skipped that. So Decca's 8 years old, and I love that. So she's writing a letter to her parents because they're in Canada on business, and she was like, love from 8. She's 8 years old, so I just thought that was cute. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense for their nicknames to be their age. Also, they have so many nicknames. I wish we had like a glossary at the front that told us, okay, this nickname is this person. But then it goes into Decca's best friend at the time was not a sister or even a brother, but a pet lamb called Miranda. All the children had dogs, and Miranda was treated like one of these. She went everywhere with Decca, to church, for walks, to bed sometimes, if she could be smuggled in without Nanny noticing. She was terrified for her pet when sheep dipping time came around. I used to go in with Miranda because I feared her eyes would be damaged by the virulent poisons in the dip, so I'd hold a hanky over her eyes. Nanny used to get cross because her bathing suits got full of holes from the chemicals, and she was covered in huge welts from the thrashing animal. But she said Miranda was the light of my life, and then a poem that she wrote for her. That is so cute. It's cute. I love lambs. So that is all for the sisters for the week. So let's do the weekly wrap up. So I usually do a sneak peek as well, but I will still be reading the sisters next week. This will be the main feature in next week's vlog as well. So if you're interested and want to know about the rest of the book, stay tuned. I've only read over 100 pages one day this week, and that was on Wednesday. I read 110 pages. I did read 99 on Tuesday, but not quite 100. And I've read 60 pages today. I don't know. I do think it is possible because I am reading about 30 pages in the Frozen River a day. So I could definitely get to 100, but again, I don't know how possible that's going to be. I did haul one book this week, but I did not show it in this video. I am so sorry. You had to stay tuned for the haul video at the end of the month. Let's actually see what is my Tuesday video. So yeah, the haul is coming out the 27th, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a snow emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!